Welcome to Chalk Talk, a weekly preview of West Tennessee football featuring the Jackson Sun sports team on jacksonsun.com.
Hi everybody, welcome to week 5 of Chalk Talk here at jacksonsun.com. Hanging out with Brandon Shields. My name is Craig Thomas. Going to look at some of the top games to keep our eyes on here for West Tennessee in week 5. We'll start with a couple games in the city. Southside, which had a very nice start to the season, undefeated, ranked for the first time in quite a while in the state polls.
Decade nearly,
yeah.
if that, maybe not quite that long, but it's close to it.
Yeah, definitely the first time in these guys' careers for sure. They'll be at Lane Field to take on JCM here in week 5. Do you see any way this game could maybe trip Southside up?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it could be the definition of a trap game because there's no reason to think that JCM would win this game. I think they're good enough to compete with them because definitely I don't think Southside's on the level of Brentwood Academy, who JCM played last week. And then Southside's got a big game next week with Dyersburg. So, you know, they could be in danger of looking ahead to that game. But I don't know. I mean, it's just hard for me to to see even if Southside is looking ahead. I mean, JCM has not stopped anybody, and I mean that's no disrespect to JCM. I know they're playing hard. I know they're trying their best, but until there's a little more effectiveness on defense, I think Southside's gonna have it, particularly behind Cade Willingham, the way he's been throwing it lately.
Yeah, no doubt. Another game here in the city, Northside, the Indians hosting Lexington, what looks to be like a pretty good game, not just based on what they've done in the past, but what they've been doing up to this point. Lexington coming off a big win against Haywood. Northside's been playing some good football. What do you like about this matchup?
Well, I know you've seen Northside a couple of times this year. I saw Lexington last week, and one thing that stuck out to me about Lexington was the fact that Tre'Kius Tisdale, we already know he's a good player for him, Ole Miss commit to play linebacker. He plays on the defensive line for Lexington because of his size. They moved him from the end to tackle last week. He had never played there in a varsity game, and they weren't. I'm supposing they weren't sure exactly how he would do, but apparently that position works for him because when he came out in the first quarter, he had a couple of sacks, a few tackles behind the line of scrimmage. He was getting back there. He was really motivated to do well in that game. May have been because of who was lining up on the other side of the line at Haywood with Emmett Gooden. But still, Tre'Kius came out, had a good game. They've lost the last 2 years to Northside, so I would hope he'd want to come out and have a good game in this game as well, particularly since it's a region game and Northside's won the last 2 years in close games that have come down to the wire. But that Northside line has done a good job. Am I right?
Yeah, no, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, particularly, one we talked about on the website earlier this week, Markevius McKinney. So seeing those two get big guys go head-to-head a few times throughout the game should be a fun matchup to watch, and I think it'll be an important one in deciding who wins and who's able to move the ball or stop the opposing offense more consistently.
Yeah, I mean, Northside's offense didn't score against Liberty. Had a little trouble getting going early against Bryan County. After the Liberty game, talking to Tab Valley, it's kind of like, look, we got some guys in new to game situations. They kind of have to learn through some of these, losses and stuff. I think Lexington probably a good opportunity to see how much they've learned this year in a couple of weeks.
Right.
A few other games we want to talk about. I guess what's the next one you want to go with?
Liberty and Dyersburg.
Okay, yeah, for sure. Up to Dyersburg, Liberty 4-0. Going to be a little bit of a test, one would think, against the Trojans. What do you think?
Well, this is only going to be the second time these teams have ever matched up. The first time came last year in the playoffs in the first round. A lot of people around here thought Liberty was going to win that game. Dyersburg won 35-34, 34-33. It was a pretty high-scoring game that Dyersburg won by 1 point. Or at least Liberty's a totally different team. I think Dyersburg's got a little bit more coming back from last year's team, so there's maybe an experience factor there, but Dyersburg's lost the last 2 games against the 2 better teams they've played among the 4 that they've played. I think Liberty will be the best defense that a lot of teams around here play this year. So it kind of looks like that would go in Liberty's favor, but the fact that Dyersburg's playing at home and they're probably going to be coming in with a chip on their shoulder after taking a loss last week to Crockett County. And then the loss the week before to Westview, where the defenses just didn't show up in that game. they're going to want to show something. And who better show it against than the #1 team ranked in the Dirty Dozen and the #4 team in the state.
Absolutely. That's a game we talked a good bit about on the midweek crunch. If you haven't seen that yet, stay on our website. Go look for that midweek crunch video. Pretty easy to find, and I think you'll enjoy some of the different segments we talked about.
Right.
One of the games we also talked a good bit about was Crockett County at Hardin County. A couple of undefeated teams, a couple of teams that have played very well. That game will be in Savannah, so pretty good hike from Jackson, but should be a pretty good football game. If you make the trip down there, you should get your money's worth.
Yeah, it's even bigger trip from Alamo.
Right, yeah.
But yeah, two good teams. A lot of people maybe weren't expecting Crockett to be 3-0 at this point before the season, just based on what they lost off last year's team. But they still had a good bit coming back, and you know, a couple of players that really come to mind in that conversation. Obviously, Jeremiah Nance, the quarterback, the really fast athlete who brings a lot to the offensive scheme, just because of his dual threat abilities. Also, Cordell Smith. He's one of the running backs, but he's also kind of the main linebacker who stepped in for Kamal Caldwell after he graduated last year, and he's the leading tackler, I believe. If he's not the leader, he's among the leaders in tackling for the Cavaliers. He and the rest of the defense are going to need a good game trying to stop, obviously, Cal Gobble. He was our player of the week last week, and he's on his way to having a season where he's getting better than 1,000. Probably he may be going for more than 1,500 or 2,000 yards passing and receiving this year. So they'll need a good start to this game to figure out that they're actually going to keep him corralled a little better. But both teams are going to find out just how good they are after starting off 3-0.
A couple of teams are also probably going to find out about how good they are. Adamsville, McKenzie, a couple of similar small schools, some similar, disappointing games early in the year. It looked like they've gotten a little bit better. That game will be at McKenzie, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do you have a sense of how this game might turn out?
No, because
that's the fun kind. So
both teams have been doing well this year. Each of them had kind of an early slip up. Adamsville, there's still no explanation for that 35-0 beating they took from Hardin County in week 2. McKenzie, you can kind of chalk up the first game jitters, losing to Dyer County as badly as they did in week 1. But since then, both teams are playing well. Each team got a win over a bigger school last week that easily could have been a loss for both of them. But this game's a region game this time, and I think it's safe to say if Adamsville wins this game, they've got the inside track on the region championship because they've already beaten TCA 2. Jackson Christian right now is the only other undefeated team in the region, you got to wonder how they're going to compete as the season goes along. But between these two offenses, Jack Server, Eric Robinson, the running back from McKenzie, Server's their quarterback. The receivers are starting to catch the ball. That's a young group that he's throwing to, so they're all working. LaDerrick Means from Adamsville, he's kind of figured out his role as kind of the go-to back, particularly with Dylan Worley being injured, and he's out for a couple of weeks at Adamsville. So Adamsville maybe is still trying to make sure everybody's in the right places in the offense, but it's still working. Maybe they figured it out last week, and maybe they'll, if they did figure it out last week, then we should see them with the advantage this week. But McKenzie's got a good defense. They're starting to figure out their secondary situation as well. So we could see kind of a unstoppable force versus an immovable object type situation in this game.
Yeah, this seems to be one of those games where I feel like both fan bases, and they both have some pretty hardcore fan bases, are probably a little bit anxious about how this game is going to go, honestly. Pretty exciting to think about the possibility of a win, but a little troubling maybe if you think about another loss,
right
here in the first half of the season. All right, well, as usual on Friday morning, that's a paper you definitely want to get. We have the Blitz, where you look at the preview capsules for all the games involving teams in the Jackson Suns coverage area. Brandon spends a lot of time on that. There's a lot of good info out of each one. We also have the stats package, and school's been doing a pretty good job calling in some stats.
I think we got 24. We're recording this on Tuesday afternoon. We already got 24 teams turned in, which if that's a right count, that's a record for us.
Yeah, so when you look at those, top passers, top rushers, top tacklers, you're seeing some guys who really are some of the top players in West Tennessee. So that's definitely something to keep an eye on. That'll be in the Friday section, and then obviously game coverage Friday night, online and in print Saturday morning. Photo galleries. Kenny and Cody and those guys always do a good job. Then we'll have probably some video as well. Just a lot of good stuff to check out. But even in the meantime, this week. We'll have some good high school coverage, kind of getting you ready for the week. Brandon, do you want to tease anything you're doing for this week?
Taking another look at Liberty as they get ready for this game. I'll probably be talking with Mickey Marley at USJ because they're going up to BGA. That'll be another undefeated matchup, and interviews with Wade Comer and McKenzie, Kevin Ward at Crockett County. So there'll be a lot of coverage in Friday's paper getting ready for Friday night.
All right, awesome. Well, we appreciate you guys joining us. We hope to see you out there Friday night. Have a great week.
See you.